Edward John Smith. He's the captain of the Titanic, which is really interesting, isn't it? He was married in this church to a lady called Sarah and Eleanor Pennington. The famous Titanic voyage, the unsinkable ship that goes down in 1912, which is the wreck that we know about today. And the famous film with Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, made famous in Hollywood, of course, but that's him later on in his life. So real tragedy, that event, wasn't it? Horrible, really. Some images here as well. This is Keith Myers for Hidden Histories, and today's episode we're in the village of Winwick in Warrington. So I'm at St Oswald's Church, the ancient Saxon church in Warrington, and it's an amazing place. There's so many layers of history, so I'm going to go in and find out and check it out. But we appear to be on some sort of hill structure on top of the church, so you can see here as it slopes around this churchyard. So this is a very ancient church. We know it goes back to the Anglo-Saxon times. We know it's very, very, very old. There you go, that's the exterior of the church. When one walks around, you're presented with story after story. We have Oliver Cromwell besieging the church during the Civil War. There are musket balls here, cannonballs. We've got Pugin that remodeled part of the church. So Pugin was one of the great architects, one of the great church architects. We've got an ancient Saxon cross. We've got Bronze Age finds as well from this site. There's all sorts of layers to this, and this is what's really interesting about this church, is that it is a storytelling device. This church is so rich and interesting. So we're going to have a look around and we'll check out some of the finds. This magnificent building that we look at today has layers upon layers of history. One that when you peel back, you see something else appear. It's so vast and interesting. So I'm stood in the nave right now, and behind me is the chancel. We know that this church goes back to the Domesday Book. It was mentioned in 1086 as well. So it's a really old church. So we've got the, St Oswald's Church, which is really interesting because you've got St Elphin's Church over in Warrington, the other side. These are brother and sister churches, if you like, or twinned churches. So this was designed by Pugin. This chancel screen designed by Pugin, so the great architect of churches, Pugin. And then when Pugin did his work, he'd actually remodeled this church, and underneath our feet here, the legend says that this was the site of where the two giant skeletons were found as well. Whether or not that's true, apparently they were put back inside. So two giant skeletons underneath here. I love those stories about giants and stuff like that. It's really fascinating. Here we've got a really beautiful stained glass window as well. So apparently the trimmings on the top windows were cut off so they could fit the glass in. So you can see the trimmings at the bottom with the names of the saints, but in the top window they're missing because they've been trimmed off to fit. St Oswald's Church, as you come in here, you can see this little guidebook, which is really great. It shows you around. So we're going to use this to navigate around the church for what we're doing. So we'll have a look around. So right now, as we approach this area, we can see the tower. So that's a really old part of the church. The tower's 600 years old, and the south aisle was rebuilt in 1350. So that's that side, isn't it? South aisle rebuilt in 1530 and then restored in 1836, and then in 1701 the nave ceiling was added. So this is what we've got here. So 1701 that dates from. So you can apparently see the dates of the church wardens, etc. I don't think we can see them from down here. It was restored. The ceilings were restored in 2010 to 2017. There would have been an upper gallery here as well, I'm told. So that actually would have been another floor. So upper gallery, but that's now gone. Let's go into the Lee Gallery. So we've got the body of Richard Lee, Esquire, of Lyme in Cheshire, who died the last day of August on 1687. So that's their tomb. Got a Lee coat of arms there as well. It's really interesting. So that's very ornate, isn't it? Very interesting pattern design. And then we've got this one, Ellen. So the story goes here that she was kidnapped by a Scottish family. It was a great controversy at the time because she was from an affluent family. She was kidnapped and forced to marry another family. She was eventually returned here, and then she married into the Lee family, but unfortunately she died. Ellen died during childbirth when she was 19 years old. It's quite harsh, isn't it? You know, you've been kidnapped as a youngster, forced to marry, and then been brought back, and then you've been successfully married into the Lee family, but then when you have a child, you die during childbirth, and the child died as well, unfortunately. So that's very tragic. Got some interesting tombs here. Sir Piers Lee, the Duke of Gloucester and leader of the Scottish campaign in 1482, received an annuity of £10 from the Duke that succeeded. 1511, he resigned as a steward. Sir Peter Lee's tomb here, 1635. And we've got this relief of another tomb, which you can't really make out, but there is a picture here of what that looks like. So this is the Lee Chapel we're in right now. The organ came from Atherton Hall as well. So in 1824 the organs come from there. Some really interesting design here in the ceiling of the Lee Chapel. You see those angels holding the various coats. So that's Tudor. This is a Tudor ceiling. So Peter's just showing us where the legendary Winwick pig is outside. Okay, yeah. Winwick, yeah. That's the Winwick pig that apparently told them to build the church in this place. It was going to be built somewhere else, and it came here, did its Winwick noise, and then the church legend goes that the church was then built here.
There's a few on the other side as well.
So that's musket ball damage there. Yeah. There. So that's from the Battle of Red Bank, essentially.
Because in the English Civil War, when the Scots had initially took the church, and a few of them went up the tower.
Right.
And one of them was shot from the tower, so we believe. And then in the 19th century, somebody was doing some excavation work here, and they found a skeleton with a lead musket ball in its thigh.
Wow, so there's a story that Scotsmen went up there, was shot and killed, fell down, and then in the 19th century they found a skeleton with a musket ball damage. That's unbelievable, isn't it? So this is really interesting as well. So Peter took me around this. So this is a flag, part of a flag from the Napoleonic War. So when Napoleon was defeated, this flag was brought back, and there's a complete story chart here, actually, bit of information here. the type of flag is an Italian Venetian Navy ship or a Corona ensign presented by Captain Phillips Hornby to his father. So basically, he's taken this flag, or the flag was, it looked more like this here. So the entire thing there, that segment, the middle segment, has been taken out, and the fabric remains here in the church. And Peter, the warden, was telling me that this is quite an important feature, and people are, you know, historically from around the world really interested in this, because we've got the, it's a bad reflection here, but the letter N there for Napoleon on the flag as well. So that goes all the way back to the Napoleon War. How cool is that? Really interesting. And that's just one part of this church's amazing story. There was a ceremony as well, Peter was telling me, so I'll have to take this a second. Let me just get less reflection. So once Napoleon was defeated, over in Winwick, they held a ceremony at this oak, the Winwick Oak, right? And this is where a dinner was held in 1811 to honour Captain Phillips for his victory at the Battle of Nisa, I think it is. On the 13th of March 1811. So people from that area in the world today still have a historical connection to this. So the dinner was held to honour Captain Phillips. So that's pretty amazing, isn't it? So it was from a captured Italian Venetian naval ship. That's where the flags come from. This is the Gerard Chapel. And there's lots of stuff going on here that's amazing. So I don't even know where to start, but this is the fascinating thing about a church, is that they are the ultimate storytelling devices. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a story, an amazing story. So I don't even know where to begin. Do you begin the tomb underneath our feet that's got a Latin engraving on? Or do you begin with the font and the ancient Saxon cross? Or do you begin with the burial mounds and the founds from the Bronze Age here? Or the Civil War? It goes on and on and on and on and on. Or the ancient piscina, the window, the vinegar table. It's just unbelievable. There's so much. And this is why I love going to churches, because you get to play around with all these different histories and different layers to time, really. So let's see if I can piece this together for us. So we're in the Gerard Chapel, so I'm using this guide, and then Peter's been kind enough to show me around as well already. So where can I begin here? Right, so the floor, so that's Sir Piers Gerard, 1495. So that's their family vault. You can see, come around here. So it's actually underneath this carpet, but Peter, the warden's actually unearthed it for us, so to speak. So you can see this an ornate carving, but what's happened is, over time, because it's been worked on so much, and because it's, you know, people have used it for engravings or, you know, sketching the pattern, it's actually worn down quite a lot. So you can see the picture of this family tomb, but it's quite worn down. Now, I don't speak Latin, unfortunately, so I can't actually read what that says, but it's 1495. And one of the most interesting things about this church for me is this. This is unbelievable. So look how big this is, about 1.5 meters. So that is a cross, an Anglo-Saxon cross. And what's really fascinating here is that we've been able to take this cross and depict some of the engravings off this here as well. So you can see these are the patterns on the cross themselves. So you've got, this is believed to be a baptism or part of the Bible reenactment. It's been interpreted as the crucifixion or the hung, drawn and quartering of Oswald, chopping his body up, but there's no evidence of that, so that's sceptical, really. So we don't really know, so we're trying to understand what these carvings mean, to be honest. But that's there as well, so you can see it, a larger view of that there, which is on this ornate cross, so what's left of this cross head. So that would have been the cross going across vertically, and then the horizontal, sorry, the horizontal section of the cross here, but the vertical section has gone, and it would have corresponded with, if you look at this cross here, you see that's the style we're talking about, that sort of Celtic cross. So that's the same sort of cross we're talking about. But it probably would have been a marker cross somewhere depicting a gathering place. We know that this was a Saxon church. It's in the Domesday Book when the Normans come here, so we know there was already something else going on. So the stained glass windows, 1937. That's quite a modern one in the church itself. 634, which is dedicated to St Oswald's remains that are here today apparently. And Oswald is having a Christian vision there on the left hand side of this apparently. Whilst on the right he's depicted distributing food and valuables to the poor. So that's, you know, the iconography of that stained glass window telling a story. 14th century sandstone font as well. Very similar material to that cross, all different eras. You can't radiocarbon date stone. You can only do that with inorganic material. But we know this is 14th century. They reckon that this was damaged during the Civil War, during the Battle of Red Bank in 1648. So actually this church was besieged in 1648, and the Scottish royalists were locked in this church by the parliamentarians. So Cromwell's troops locked a lot of Scottish prisoners in here. So they've wrecked a lot of these things inside the church, apparently. You can see some of the artefacts that's been found here. Some of the lead balls, some of the musket balls, some of the cannonballs as well. That's really interesting, isn't it? And then you've got other things as well. So here's a coin, 2 Oliver Cromwell crown coins as well, as you can see them there. It's quite interesting, isn't it? And these musket balls here. Pretty amazing stuff. A Viking strapend as well. So that must, I presume that's something you wear, part of clothing material to hold something in place, or a strap to hold something in place. Then we've got 2 Anglo-Saxon cruciform brooch pendants as well. So there's so many layers of history just to this box. And then we've got a flintlock on a pistol or a rifle that would have been used as well. And then we've got some other finds here as well, including spindles, Roman, medieval, either from the Roman or medieval period, so cloth or material going through those spindles. So yeah, so loads of interesting stuff here, just in this one cabinet. This is what I'm saying, this is just one part of this cabinet here. This is really interesting. I'm not sure what this is. Let's have a look. So let's just move this out of the way a second. So, oh, it's a transcript from Latin of a commemorative lead plate which was removed from the end of the roof beam in 2017. In 1818, this beam of wood was placed in the roof, so that many years later it was able to last. So actually you can read some of the Latin, don't you? You're going to get the reflection. You can read some of the Latin here. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? That's pretty amazing as well. It's like I say, there's so many layers to the history. And then Peter, the guy who works here, has given me information about this. So this is really, really fascinating. So this is the sexton's dues. So this is basically what you would pay to be buried. So this goes back to the 8th of the 18th of April 1853. So this is when they changed the amount of money that you need to pay to be buried. And it actually gives you how much that plot would be for depth per foot, 6 by 6 foot. So that's what you would be charged to pay, or you would have to pay rather, to be buried. So this is the actual amount of money. So that's really interesting. That's from 1853 and it's been stood here ever since. And again, another item here. So that must have been from the tomb, from the Gerard's tomb, from that engraving. So this is the shield that would have been on top of that, I presume, and the carpet was, the rug rather, was covering it up to protect it. So loads of stuff there. And then we've got another cabinet. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? 1980, there was some archaeology done by the University of Liverpool. There was archaeology going back in the 70s as well by I think the University of Manchester. Could have been Liverpool as well. So when the new town was developed, they were excavating some of the barrows. So there were Bronze Age barrows in this area. You can see some of the map here where they would have been around the church. So if we just move that cabinet down, oh no, better not. You can see the church, get it there, the church, Winwick Church is there on the map. This is a plan of some of the finds as well from the barrow in 1980. So the motorway partly is running through this area here, so they think they might have actually got rid of an original church there as well. So these are all the finds, finding all the various grave goods or pottery as well. But the thing that's really interesting here is that the church itself is on a really elevated ground. So this could be, the church could be on a hill structure or ancient burial ground. Then they've got the legend of the giant skeletons in the chancel over there, which is fascinating as well. I'd love to do some archaeology on that. That'd be fascinating, wouldn't it? But yeah, so many different things. We have the Oswald Lodge, the Freemason Lodge as well. So Freemasons being active in both Elphin's Church, St Elphin's Church and St Oswald's Church, but they've only got one chapter now. We've also got the Battle of Winwick, the Battle of Winwick Society as well, which they do reenactments. They also do an event each year, usually during Heritage Open Week. What the Warden Peter was talking about before was this beetle that was damaging the roof, and they had to replace it as well, this kind of beetle. So there's information here about Hermitage Green. I think that must be the old pub. Obtained its designation from some hermit in the former times had made his station, where in return for a pater noster, wherever that is, he might obtain alms from the many pilgrims who came to pay for their orisons at St Oswald's Well. So that would have been, I think that's an old sign from a pub around here on about St Oswald's Well. So St Oswald's Well is down the road as well. You have to ask permission to film there or get access. You can't just access, you have to get permission. And then this is what the churchyard looks like outside. Of bad reflection on this really, so I'll come this angle. This is a really great perpendicular kind of image of the church looking from where we are here, the south side of this space, I think. No, yeah, this is the south door here, I think. North on the other side, east on this is the chancel area. So I think for me what's really interesting about this church is that it is almost the most amazing storytelling device. There are so many layers to history inside St Oswald's Church. And it's not just about this church. Wherever church you go to in the UK, there are story upon stories inside those there are stories upon stories inside the walls of those churches. And once we look at those stories, we start to unravel a past that we often forget about. And this is why churches are really important that we preserve them, because without them we're going to lose these stories. So having concerts, which is what this church is doing, getting people together and connecting to that community But what else can we do? How can we keep these amazing historic vehicles going into the future? Because if we lose these, then we're going to lose a big part of our heritage. So help your local church, donate, go and visit and explore the history, because without history we lose who we are.